There's a piece in the Bible which is sometimes called the Christian Manifesto. It's what we call the Magnificat. It gets sung, evensong in churches that still do it. It's the Song of Mary when she finds out she's going to have Jesus. And in it says, the hungry you have filled with good things, and the rich you will send empty away. And the bishops in their letter said, the biblical tradition is not only biased to the poor, but warns constantly against too much power falling into the hands of too few. And I guess that's one of the passages they were thinking about. The rich have got richer and the poor are getting poorer, haven't they?
I would say so. In the last 20 years or so, that is clearly evident in terms of where big businesses or superstars can amass great fortunes, but at the same time there are people that are taking a risk and building on it. So we need to be careful that we don't persecute or give the rich a bad label, not all of them, but see the good that most people do when they're trying to. We all start at the same line virtually, in terms of if we get the right education and we gain those morals and we get the work ethic, then we can move forward. What's happening here is a great divide in terms of where big business, corporate businesses are able to exploit the workforce in terms of what comes from the EU. They've allowed people here to sit at home and having to claim benefits, while big businesses exploit those that come from poorer countries trying to get a better wage, but in fact invariably they don't get a better wage, they get exploited, and that's a classic example where it's going wrong. What we need to do is motivate people and give them the skills, and we need to give them the ability to get the education that they need, to get those good prospects, to make sure that their family life at home is good and strong, and they get their good education, and they will go on to better themselves. At the moment, we have a large amount of children, over 3.5 million, I think it is. I think that are living in poverty now. That's 1 in 4. That's absolutely terrible, and that's, I suppose, where the adage charity begins at home. We need to concentrate a lot more on making sure that we do, instead of looking out across the world just, we're taking our eye off the ball, I think, and we've become richer materialistically, but as we've seen, family life is now almost but gone for a lot of people. A lot more people are living on their own, a lot more single parent families, and that has had consequences now for a lot of young people who seem to feel that they've been left alone to get on with it, and they've got no future, they've got no hope. And
so what do we do about that?
We need to make sure that, first and foremost, they have food, they have good education, they get to understand that if you work hard, you will be rewarded. And I think that's what most people miss. I grew up on a council estate. I had school meals. I had to go and get my school uniform from the town hall. I've lived in it. I've been there, and you feel like there's nothing out there for you, and there's no hope of stepping up that next rung of the ladder. You feel that you're not going to make it, but suddenly, with a bit of help from friends and family, and you can find, and you've got to have that determination as well. Your own determination. It comes from within inside. It isn't just all about what we can give or what the government can give. It's got to be a partnership. It's got to be a two-way thing. It's got to be, are you willing to come out of that? Are you willing to work for it? And is the government going to put in place, make sure that there's good education, good further education? And it isn't just about going to university. It's about making sure there's vocational programs, skills and everything, which I never went to university. I found my skills actually in the army. And it's finding that purpose. When you reach that point where you feel that you've had a purpose or you can contribute, it will happen naturally. So it's a partnership, but mainly the government has got to make sure they put in place all the aids that one needs to get up the ladder and further develop themselves.
In 2010, There were 4 food banks in the West Midlands. Now there are 41. David Cameron says that's because they've been advertising it through Job Centre Plus, and that the previous government weren't allowing Job Centre Plus to advertise that. What does UKIP say?
I think this is... there's always been some kind of food bank, charity. There's always been... the church has always played its part, and as many community groups do as well. But I don't think it's down to Job Centre Plus. This is a clear indication of where things have gone really wrong, where most of those going to the food banks are actually in work. They're receiving, and they're receiving tax credits. So they're going to work, they're doing what we're supposed to do, what the government wants us to do, to go out to work, provide for our families, to keep a roof over our head, but we're not able to put food on the table or choose between paying for the heating or the electricity. This is a clear indication of where things have gone really wrong in terms of the minimum wage that all businesses now apply, regardless, which is now the maximum wage. So that needs to be looked at. This is where we would take, straight away, we would take those out of tax that earn the minimum wage at the moment, instantly putting money in their pockets so they can actually go out and buy some food. But going back to the point that most of the people now needing these food banks actually work, shows that there is something incredibly wrong in our society today at the moment.